Great, it is math time, so get ready to be working on your page. But before we do that, I do want to review a little bit of our clocks because we're still, almost there, but not quite. So I'm going to give you some times. What time would this be? If you're looking right, it would be 2:14. So we start off with 2, and then it's not on the 15, it's not on the 3, it's right above it. So it would be 2:14. 2:14. Good. Let's do another one. What time would this be? Look at it carefully. Okay, see, some of you are saying it's going to be 8:50, but if it's 8:57, then what should it be on now? It should be 9 o'clock, so it's not 8:50. Remember, it has to keep getting closer, so it's 7:57, 58, 59, now it's 8 o'clock. So it's 7:57, okay? And that's what you have to remember because it's not quite on the 8 yet. Now it's 8 o'clock. 8:57, remember, would look like that because it would be almost on the 9. That's what you have to see when you're doing that. So 7:57 is going to almost be on my 8 because in just a couple ticks of the clock, tick, 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 it is going to be 8. So it has to be ready to be right on the 8 at that time. So it has to be as close as possible. It's not going to make sense for it to be here. And then when it's 8 o'clock, it's not on there. So that's why it's as close to the 8 as possible so that when it gets to those next few clicks, then it is on 8 o'clock. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. What about this one? Yikes. Can you see that? Yes, 10:03. It would be 10:03. Good. Good. Yes. Some of you got that much better. 12:48 because it's almost going to be 1 o'clock. So it's 12:48. Good. And then last one. What time is that? Good. It's in between the 5 and 6. So you always go with the first number, 5. And it's not on the 4 yet. So 19, 5:19. Otherwise it would be 5:20, but it's 5:19. All right. Now, if my clock is at 8:40, okay, 8:40, what would 15 minutes later be? What would 15 minutes later be? And some of you kind of have a hard time with this, but all you have to think about is if it's at 40, add 15 to the number 40, and that will give you your answer, okay? Or like we said, count 5, 10, 15. But if you added 15 to 40, you would get 55. So it would be 8:55. What would 30 minutes after 8:40 be? If it's 8:40, what would 30 minutes be? So you can add it, but then you have to understand after you add it, you have to think of how many minutes are in our hour and then add from there to figure out. Okay, but then you could do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. If you added them, then you would have gotten 70, right? 60 plus 10 is 70. So you would have to think that through. It would be easier if it's just, for some of you, if it's just here. But some of you were able to catch that if you add that and it becomes 70, that you end up going to the next. All right. What would 15 minutes earlier than 8:40 be? So you would subtract 15 from 40, right? So 5, 10, 8:15. It'd be 25. Did you guys get that? 8:25. What would half an hour earlier be? So if we were at 8:40, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Yep, then we would be at 8:10. Okay, when we were after, we were at, oh, I hope that you caught that too. It was 9:10, not 8:10. So it was 8:55 for 15 minutes later, 9:10 for 30 minutes or later, 8:25 for 15 minutes earlier, and 8:10 for 30 minutes earlier. If you subtract 40 minus 30, it equals 10. Okay, so hopefully you'll get a little bit of a handle on that and be able to really hone in on those skills of telling your time and the clocks and the time before and earlier and later and all of that, because that's important for you to know. The next thing I want to go through is something that we're still not quite getting on our tests, okay, or quizzes. When we have part of a whole, so I have 1/2 of 13. That means I'm dividing 13 divided by 2. 13 divided by 2, I would say, okay, the closest I could get without going over would be 6, right? And then some of you are leaving it like that. So you're telling me if I cut 13 things in half, okay, if I cut 13 cookies in half, I would have 6 cookies for each person. That doesn't make sense, right? Because 6 for each person would only give me 12 cookies, but I have 13. So now what do I do if I'm doing that? Now I have to figure out, oh wait, what else can I give? If I'm going to give, them to 2 people, then they can't each get 6. They have to get more than that in order to get rid of 13 of them. So that's when I have to go, how far away is 13 from, 13 divided by 2 equals 6, with 1 left over. That becomes my numerator. My denominator stays the same the whole time. So my answer should be 6 1/2. Okay, so it's just like dividing. So on some of your papers, I've even done that for you, and we're still not doing it. Please, 3rd grade, please get this down, because I'm showing it to you I feel like every video. Some of you are probably like, wait, she's doing this again. She does this every video. Why aren't people getting this? Yes, I've done this almost every video and we're still not getting it on tests and quizzes, and it's killing me. So either you're not watching or you're not paying attention. How many 2s are in 13? There's 6. And then if we multiply, it's 12. We subtract, it's 1. And then how do we write it as a remainder? As a fraction. 1 is our numerator and 2, divisor, is denominator. That's the same thing that you're doing for these, except for you don't have to divide. You're just doing it in your head. Okay, please look at that. 1/3 of 22. How many 3s are in 22? 7. But then how many are left over? Because it's 21, there's 1 left over, and then my denominator stays the same, 7 1/3. Okay, all you're doing is dividing. 22 divided by 3 equals 7. 23 times 7 is 21. Take away is 1 left over, and 3 becomes my denominator, stays the same. All right, now 1/4 of 43. How many 4s are in 43? Well, you should know that there's 10. That should be easy because 10 4s are in 40. But then what do I have left over? 3, right? Because there's 40 is 3 away from 43. And my 3 comes as my numerator and my denominator stays the same. 10 3/4. Okay? That's all that we are doing for those. So please think, it's just division. Divide the whole number by the denominator. The whole number by the denominator. And if there's anything left over, it becomes the numerator. And the denominator stays the same as what we divided by. Denominator stays the same. Just like we see here. It's worked out over here. So please, please, please look at that carefully so that we can get those down and not miss those anymore, okay? All right, because now we are to our new concept that I want you to be getting down and thinking through. This is how I want to end the year strong, with having a pretty good understanding of how to do these, okay? So we look at our divisor, and there's 2 digits out here. So since there's 2 digits in our divisor, we have to remember that we have to go into both of these digits. We're still going to break it down because that's the easiest thing to do. Remember, math just breaks things down. So if you take them in smaller chunks, it's much easier. So please listen to that huge hint that I give you. Take it in smaller chunks. But because we are dividing by 2 digits on the outside, put a line over both of my digits in my dividend, okay? Because it's not going into just 6, it's because it's 30, it's going into 65. So draw a line over my first 2 digits, since we can't just divide into the first digit because we have to divide into both. So we'll need to divide into the first 2 digits, so we draw a line over the top of the first 2 digits in the dividend. But our first step is just like our 5 steps of division. Good. Divide, multiply, subtract, compare, bring down. Same steps as our 5 steps of division. But since we don't know a 30 table, we're not going to ask how many 30s are in 65 because that's like 30 plus 30. No, we're just going to simply break it down easier. We're going to use these 2 numbers right here. Even though we're doing both, we're going to start with these 2. That will help us with our answer. It's an easier way of figuring out the answer. So the one thing that we can do to figure out how many 30s are in 65 is to first figure out how many 3s are in 6. When I find out how many 3s are in 6, that will tell me. How cool is that, right? Because we know how to do 6 divided by 3. We know how many 3s are in 6. 3, 6. So we know there's 2 3s and 6. Well, because we have to go into, this is why we drew the line over top. And some of you aren't going to do it because you don't like to do those extra things. But please do it, because then you're going to remember, oh yeah, I had to go into both of these. My quotient needs to go above the 5, not the 6, because there's not 2 30s in 6. There's 2 30s in 65. After I divide, guess what I do? I just multiply again, right? That's why we learned those steps, those simple steps that help to remind us. So now I'm simply multiplying 2 times 30. 2 times 0 equals 0, and 2 times 3 equals 6. You see that? How simple, right? And then we subtract, just like we've been doing. 65 minus 60 is 5. We compare, obviously it's less. There's nothing left to bring down, so what do we do with our 5? Yes! Did you see how easy that was, 3rd grade? You thought it was going to be hard. You sat there and were like, I'm never going to get... That's why the 11th commandment, thou shalt not quit. Look at how easy that is. So in these bigger division problems, and they're not that much bigger, they're just 2 numbers on the outside this time. If we still just look at the first digit in each, look at the tens place in each, how many 3s are in 6, that's going to help me figure out my answer. All right, I'm going to show it to you again because I know you're thinking, yeah, that was a fluke the first time, Miss Monroe. What about it if we have to do it again? How do we do it? Okay, listen, watch carefully. Because I'm dividing by 2 digits, I have to divide into both of these. Because I am figuring out how many 20s are in 32, but the way that I do that, first of all, put my line so that I remember both digits. It's both. I can't say how many 2s are in 3, and then when I put 1, I put a 2 here and subtract, and then I have a 1, and then I have 12, bring down, and then I put a 0 up here, and then I try to... No, you're gonna get confused. So that's why you draw the line over both of them, because it is the number 20. 20 divided 32 divided by 20, 20 going into 32, okay? But what I start with, in order to figure out how many 20s are in 32, okay, you could draw 30 marks and circle every group of 20 if you want to do that, but how about we just look at how many 2s are in 3? How many 2s are in 3? There's one group of 2 in 3, right? So my 1 goes over my 2 because we're not going into this first digit. But then when I multiply, what do I have to multiply? The whole outside number, okay? 1 times 20, not 1 times 2. 1 times 20, because that's what I am dividing, okay? So 1 times 20 equals 20. And I write it underneath so that I can subtract. Now subtract carefully. 2 minus 0. And 3 minus 2, 1. Is it less? It is. And if it's less and there's nothing left to bring down, then guess what? It's my remainder. But it's a big remainder, Miss Monroe. So, is it bigger than my divisor? No. If it's not bigger than my divisor, then I don't have to worry about it. It's perfectly fine. So in 32, I have one group of 20, and then I have 12 left over. Okay, like we said, you could totally do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 31, 32. And then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And circle that group of 20. Tells you how many. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is what I have left over. There it is right there. So that's all it's telling you, is that in a group of 32, if I wanted to have a group of 20, I could have one group of 20 and then there would be 12 excess left over. That's all. So take the first digits into each other, but when you multiply, this is the key, third grade. When you multiply both the outer digits, all of the outer digits. So 1 times 20, 2 times 30, not 2 times 3, 2 times 30. We just break it down with that first digit so it makes it easier. But when you're multiplying, you have to remember you're still using both numbers. And then you could multiply and see if it's correct. 20 times 1 plus 12. And if you do 20 times 1 plus 12, you're going to end up with 32. All right, let's look here really quickly. I'm trying to not take so much, and I know it's going long, but I really want to make sure that you get this, okay? We are going to review it, but this is why I wanted to keep going with arithmetic, because these are important concepts that next year, if you know the beginning of these steps, it's going to help you so much, because you'll see more of these next year, a lot more, okay? All right. So we're not going to go, oh no, how many 30s are in 90? I don't know how many 30s are in 96. We didn't learn a 30 multiplication table. Miss Monroe is a horrible teacher. No, she might not be a great teacher, but she has taught you all that you need to know in order to do these. So you're okay. Just hang in there, okay? So instead of looking at how many 30s are in 96, we're going to put a line over the 96 to remember both digits. We're going into both digits. We're going into both because this is 2. We have to go into both. Okay, we can't figure out how many 3s are in 96. No, it's how many 3s are in 9, which really is how many 30s are in 96, but we broke it down into a smaller thing that our brains can handle, and it gives us the same right answer. Okay, so we're going to look at just the first digits, our 9 and our 3. How many 3s are in 9? 9 divided by 3 equals, it just equals 3. So we put a 3 over the 6. It has to go over the 6 because we went into both digits. Put it over the end of that line, okay? Now we simply multiply. 3 times what? Not 3 times 3. 3 times 30, okay? So 0 times, or 3 times 0, 0 goes in the ones place, and 3 times 3 is 9. And then I subtract 96 minus 90 is 6. Compare of course it's less. And then our remainder is 6. 3, remainder 6. I know, you're amazed at how easy it is, okay? But if you get to your page and you get stuck, come back to this, rewatch it, listen to Miss Monroe again. You're still dividing 2 digits on the outside with 2 digits, just like with multiplication. 2 on the top times 2 on the bottom, but what did we do? We broke it down into smaller increments. We did the top number times the ones place, then the top number times the tens place. And that's all that you have to do. So now, instead of trying to figure out how many 30s are in 96 or how many 20s are in 32, we're just figuring out how many 2s are in 3 or how many 3s are in 9 or how many 3s are in 6. But it's still multiplying by 30 to get our answer to go underneath. We're still multiplying by 20 to put what we need to underneath. We're still multiplying by 30 to get what we need underneath so that we can find out what our remainder is. Okay, so that's what you're working on page 317, division with a 2-digit divisor. Since the divisor has 2 digits, you need to divide into 2 digits of the dividend. Write a line over, whoa, I'm so close, over both digits, I forget about that, as a reminder. Since you do not know a 30 division table, ask how many 3s are in 6. Write the 2 over the 0 in the quotient because you went into both of those, and then continue with the remaining steps of division. Now they are asking for you to check, so divide and check. I didn't check on the board, but you know that you're going to take your outside numbers and multiply them. Well, oh no, I didn't. I thought I did one of them. But anyway, I told you if I did 1 times 20, or 20 times 1, and then added 12 as the remainder, that's going to give me my answer. So divide and check, okay? Have your parents send me a message if you're stuck and you're not sure, but I know you can do this. So then you're going to look, section 2, work the story problems carefully. Because of time, I don't want to stop and talk that through, but work it carefully. If you're not getting it, then I'll go over it again later. But I do need to give you some numbers for section 3. So listen carefully. Letter A, 21,400,279. 21,400,279. Okay. B, and you can pause if you haven't written it. Okay. B, 1,973,600. 1,973,600. And C, again, pause it, okay, 300,300,300. 300,300,300. And then you've got your clocks, measures, lowest terms, and then circle the answers that are wrong. So there, you have to work them out in order to find out which ones are not correct. So work those out and then circle the answers that are wrong. What 3 numbers, when added together, equal a sum less than 5? That's your brain booster. So 3 numbers, when adding them together, equal a sum that's less than 5. So there's a lot of possible combinations, but I want you to think them through and share some with me that you figured out. All right, 3 numbers added together, but it's less, the answer is less than 5. All right, so, but it's got to be 3 numbers, okay? All right, I will let this end because it's getting so long, and hopefully you got that, but we will be reviewing tomorrow, so you'll be able to kind of relearn it, and we'll be doing some more of this, but just wanted to make sure you got this down. All right, I'm gonna go before it gets so long. I love you, and I know you can do it, so be confident. You got this. See you soon. Bye.